5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to start with Admiral Barata. And I don't need a lot of detail, but I think it's important for us to understand authorities under which Coast Guard is boarding these oil tankers. If you could just briefly discuss the right to visit boarding, but that only gives you the legal authority to board. But what's the authority under which you're acting in order to board? I think that's important to understand as well.
Ranking Member, briefly, we are using customary international law first and foremost to conduct the right of visit boardings. And once aboard, if we can establish that the vessel is without nationality, we can either get flag state consent, or we can, in the cases that they're without nationality, we can determine that they are under U.S. jurisdiction. And so that is kind of our opening point to use Title 14, sir.
Sure. Yeah, Title 14. But on that point, to establish the nationality, is it like pulling them over because of a broken tail light, and then you check on nationality, or is that established first by the State Department in an interagency process, and then you target that particular tanker?
So for us on the high seas, we do this very routinely on almost every vessel that's out there, multiple countries, multiple vessels. It's under the law of the sea. It's customary for us to engage either right of approach or a right of visit, and just determine what the vessel status is, what the nationality is, what their intentions are. In these cases, we've gotten some indication that their nationality is not accurate by either a database that we have, intelligence background that we have, working with the Department of State and working with their own flag states. We're seeing that there's a lot of these tankers that are just using false flags without notifying the flag state.
Yeah, and not to get in detail because you probably can't hear. Maybe we can talk to you all later in a different setting. But there's a use of Coast Guard and other intelligence assets to maybe narrow the focus a little bit, so it's not every tanker; it's specific tankers.
Yes, and obviously we're cued by the fact that these tankers are operating in Venezuela. And every vessel should be operating in its automatic identification system, and every vessel should be flagged so that we can tell these things. And yes, we work through our intelligence and other open source means to just determine that there's some anomalous information that's being provided, and so that does kind of trigger us.
I just want to establish that because you kind of do the same thing if you're doing drug interdiction or migrant interdiction.
Absolutely, yes, Ranking Member.
Same process.
Same process.
This focus is on these tankers.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't want to simplify it too much. I'm sure there's nuance, but
yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks. Mr. Clyde, I want to shift a little bit. So yeah, we provided the Coast Guard $25 billion over the next 10 years through the reconciliation bill. And Coast Guard exceeded recruitment goals last year, I think, as well. So there's platforms, there's people, but over the last couple of years, the Coast Guard has retrenched a little bit in terms of sites, in terms of because of recruitment, because of the lack of people, to move people away from current Coast Guard sites and assets from them. Is there a plan now that we're going to build additional replacement and additional platforms and recruit more people? As a Coast Guard, have you looked at whether Coast Guard has a plan now to move back to places that they have retrenched from over the last couple of years? We got to put these people somewhere and these platforms somewhere.
Yeah, we've certainly examined, the funding related to the bill, as well as Force Design 2028. It's ambitious for the Coast Guard to be able to achieve those goals. We haven't seen from the Coast Guard yet specific plans on how it will execute that funding or achieve those recruitment goals. Certainly, they've made efforts in expanding their recruitment efforts through the different offices and different technologies, which is encouraging, but we haven't seen them measure the results of those efforts yet. That remains an open recommendation from us, and so we'll wait and see what happens there. Yeah.
Admiral Barata, back to you the same question. You got the dollars for the platforms, you've got, and we'll watch, and we will definitely be watching that. You're recruiting But under Admiral Fagan, those were all great goals, and you're achieving them as well. But she also had to take actions because of the lack of recruitment previously to shrink the footprint a little bit of the Coast Guard. What's a plan to put people and platforms back to those places?
So as part of Force Design 2028, I think as Ms. McLeod mentioned, it is ambitious, but we're excited about it. We've reorganized the Coast Guard in several ways, which includes a group to focus just on people, which includes recruiting. And as you hinted at, over the last few years, we had been short, almost 9,000 people short on the enlisted side. And so the first thing we need to do is get those folks into the service and then expand by another 15,000. And so those are part of our goals to crew those ships, to return those stations where we had to take some of those operators and place them elsewhere for our most demanding needs. But we have a plan in place. We're happy to come and talk to the subcommittee about what that plan looks like, sir.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.